Perfect. We are live right now.
I'm just going to go off camera for 1 second, and I will be right back.
Okay, I think we just get started. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us at the first workshop of the week. My name is Damilola. I'm a junior from UAlbany, and I serve as the Student Assembly Secretary. I am so excited to be starting off SUNY Essay Week with you all. We will have various presentations and workshops this week, and we're joined with amazing speakers. We have speakers like Jerome Lamar, who's Beyonce's fashion designer, Chair Toby Ann Stavisky, even the Chancellor herself, and so many more. So please make sure you're telling your friends, make sure you join and tell everyone you know, because this is a great opportunity for us to come together. If you need more information for this, you can follow us on Instagram, SUNY Essay, or even check our wonderful website to get the Zoom links as well. Today, I am honored to introduce the founders of SUNY's Got Your Back, Elizabeth Brady and Joe Storch. They'll be having a presentation on sexual and interpersonal violence prevention and response on campus and online. Elizabeth Brady is the project director of sexual and interpersonal violence prevention at the State University of New York. Her professional background is in violence prevention education, victim advocacy, and peer education development on college campuses. She has developed and implemented several programming and educational initiatives for college-age students, including the Men's Initiative, focusing on engaging men in the efforts to end sexual and interpersonal violence, and an affirmative consent campaign, which is so amazing. And of course, we have Joe Storch, who is an associate counsel in the SUNY Office of General Counsel and chair of the Student Affairs Practice Group. He concentrates his practice on student affairs, intellectual property, and campus safety. He serves as principal investigator on more than $9 million in grants and external funding to support innovations in violence prevention and response on campuses and in the community. Beginning in 2016, Joe has overseen the SUNY's Got Your Back program, which has provided over 100,000 comfort bags, 100,000 comfort bags to victims and survivors of violence while educating tens of thousands of people. Once again, thank you so much to Elizabeth and Joe for your work. And if you could please just introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, Elizabeth, do you want to introduce yourself first, and then I'll introduce myself, give a couple of opening thoughts?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. It's exciting to get out here and connect with our student leaders from across the entire CE system, from all of our different campuses. Usually it would be our preference to be able to join you at your conference where you all could join us for a live event, but broadcasting to you all from my guest bedroom is just as exciting. So either way, happy to be here. I am the Director of Sexual and Interpersonal Violence Prevention at SUNY. I oversee the SUNY's Got Your Back program and a couple other programs, and I'm just super grateful to be here.
And I just want to thank you, Dami, and I want to thank you, Taryn, for reaching out. And I see that Austin is on with us. And, you know, I have had, I feel privileged to, in my almost 15 years at SUNY, to have worked quite a bit with the SUNY Student Assembly. And every year, and I would say this behind your back, I would say this to your faces, every year it gets better, more professional. Every year the programs, the things that are rolled out, the legislative agenda. And I say this with a bit of history because, let's say 3 years ago when I was an undergrad, or 20 years ago when I was actually an undergrad, I was a delegate to Student Assembly myself. And I think the organization was good then, but every year it gets better. And I have just been so impressed. But I sat where you all sat many years ago. No cell phones, no Instagram, no Facebook, no nothing. It was a very different conference. It was a very different organization back then. And I just feel a personal sense of pride every time I see another press release, another initiative, another photo on Facebook or Twitter of a member of the Student Assembly with this legislator or that legislator, just how much pride I have in the work that you're doing. Elizabeth and I have interesting jobs. We work on sexual and interpersonal violence. One of the major issues, challenges to so many students, something that affects so many students at the largest university in the United States of America. You don't need me to rattle off the statistics. Hundreds of thousands of students, tens of thousands of employees, an impact that reaches across the United States and around the globe. And sexual and interpersonal violence holds back some of the great opportunity that we create. This is a university that has tremendous leadership, a tremendous commitment to high quality education, but far too many students are impacted by violence, by harassment. And even though SUNY has, and I can say this because it's true, has a commitment to this issue that is really unmatched across the country, it doesn't mean that we've won and are ready to declare victory and say that we have, we are all set. I think SUNY sets a bar, and I think much of that bar starts with leadership from our students as well as our chancellor, the leadership at SUNY. A bar of really expecting high levels of response, a trauma-informed response, a thoughtful response, but in also trying to innovate in the space of prevention and being able to prevent these acts of violence before they occur. Elizabeth is going to talk a little bit about SUNY's Got Your Back the SUNY's Got Your Back program, which is a real jewel. It was launched April 4th of 2016, so it's barely 4 years old. And Dami talked about 100,000 bags. We launched SUNY's Got Your Back. It was originally called 2016 and 2016 because we were just going to make and assemble and distribute 2016 bags in the year 2016. And this past December, we assembled our 100,000th. We're actually at 105,000 bags. It's had a bit of pause, as so many things have in the last 2 months. But do you know where the 10,000th bag was made? Dami, do you know?
I'm not sure.
It was made at a student assembly conference. The 50,000th bag was assembled by a former president of the student assembly. In every single opportunity we have had to have these sort of very important milestones, we've been joined by folks from the student assembly because that is really what makes the difference. So Elizabeth's going to talk a little bit about the SUNY's Got Your Back program. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're expecting in the Title IX regulations, which you have heard a little about. And then because this is a town hall, we really hope to take a lot of questions from you, from your colleagues. So why don't I turn it over to my great colleague and someone who is so incredibly creative and develops programs. You know, you go away from Elizabeth for 5 minutes, you come back, there's a fully developed program reaching thousands and thousands of students, and just a tremendous colleague. So I'll turn it over to her, talk a little bit about SUNY's Got Your Back, and then I'll talk a little bit about Title IX, and we'll talk about anything else you want to talk about. Elizabeth?
Thanks, Joe. So I'm actually going to talk about a couple things in terms of what we've been doing, what we were doing before COVID-19, and how we've sort of adjusted to that, and what that means for the work as we continue, you know, far beyond this period in time. But a lot of you have participated in the SUNY's Got Your Back program, which is a program where you all put together comfort kits for victims and survivors of violence. These are then distributed to local rape crisis programs, domestic violence shelters, and hospitals all across the state. To me, it's about so much more than the bags. It's important that we're providing this really important service and item to folks who need it. But to us, it's really about engaging you all and engaging your peers who see you as student leaders, and educating them on resources that are available if they or a friend experiences sexual and interpersonal violence, ways that they can prevent it, just all sorts of different information. It's a really good opportunity to just engage students in those conversations that we otherwise might not be able to have with them. So when we found out that we were not going to be able to have events, my team went into overdrive to continue our outreach. So something that we've really been working hard on has been our digital outreach and digital education. Currently, my team is working to, or just started launching or putting out onto social media a series of campaigns having to do with the topics that we work with every day. And usually we would be having these conversations in a super informal way on campuses. But now they're putting together videos and blog posts and posts on social media about things like affirmative consent, about signs of a healthy relationship, what an unhealthy relationship looks like, ways to be a resource for a friend. And above all else, we would love having student input as we continue that work. So please consider connecting with us to see if we can't collaborate in promoting the work that we're creating, or if you maybe had an idea for a different campaign or program or whatever. We're super open to connecting with you all. Yeah, so with that, I'll kind of hand it back over to Joe so we can talk about the regs, and then I think we'll open it up to I think what I'm most excited about, which is getting the chance to engage in a dialogue with you all.
And so, and I hope that as you're looking at this, whether you're on Instagram Live or Facebook Live or right here on Zoom with us, that if you're not already following at SUNY's Got Your Back, and depending on the platform, it's either at SUNY's Got Your Back or at SUNY's Got Your BCK, because a couple of them just won't give us that 16th character. So I hope you're following SUNY's Got Your Back. We are expecting, maybe as early as Wednesday, new regulations around Title IX from the federal government. And you might be saying to yourself, do they know that there is a major national global pandemic going on? And the answer is yes, I think so. I mean, I think they know, and I think they recognize that maybe now is not the time for us to make such dramatic changes to our process. But we think that they're going to come out, and we think that when they come out, you're going to hear a lot about it. You're going to hear a lot about it on social media, and you're going to hear a lot about it from other students and maybe from some organizations. And you're going to say, well, what is SUNY going to do? Because it is going to be framed, and with some good reason, it's going to be framed as the Department of Education falling back on some of the traditional obligations under Title IX. I don't think that's a controversial statement. I think it's fairly widely agreed that one of the main impacts of the regulations as we expect them, and we don't know exactly what they're going to say, but as we expect them to be, would be to reduce a college's obligation to respond to sexual and interpersonal violence, sexual harassment, and to add more roadblocks to taking action when cases of sexual and interpersonal violence occur, even beyond the constitutional due process that excuse me, that public colleges give, or the fair process that private colleges give, and the like. And so you might say to yourself, well, is SUNY going to follow that path? And I have a couple of thoughts for you. One is in New York State, we actually have a state law on point, New York's Education Law 129B. Governor Cuomo worked on that with the legislature, and it passed unanimously in the Republican-controlled state Senate. It passed all but unanimously in the Democratically controlled state assembly, and that is law. That is a legal obligation on all public and private colleges in the state of New York, and that does not disappear regardless of what the federal government does on Title IX. So while things might have a different name or might be called different things, that law is not going anywhere. And the other thing I would say is that you have a chancellor who has a personal, deep commitment to this issue. I don't know how many of our events she's come to and spoken at. I don't know how many times she's engaged on this issue. This is something that is deeply important to her, deeply important to our executive leadership team and our campus presidents who are really engaged on this issue. So Well, nobody can predict the future. Well, I can't predict exactly what the regulations are going to say. I think I can predict that SUNY's response is not going to be so simple, and so it's just, oh, okay, well, we're doing everything completely different because we have university policies, because we have campus policies, because we have a state law. I think we're going to see things be a bit more gray than what the Department of Education would have us do. So we'll wait to see what those regulations look like. I think there'll be a lot of concern around it. And let's be real about this. This is a very, very nerve-wracking time for everybody, for our students who are far-flung. As Elizabeth said, we love being in a room up on a stage, and Austin introduces us or Kate introduces us, and we're in the room with all of you, and there's an incredible energy around a student assembly conference. And one of the things that I hate but you all love is that some of the time you schedule us for 11 p.m. or I swear to God, you scheduled us for midnight one time. And the reason I remember the 11 p.m. one was very funny to me because whoever we were working with at Student Assembly, they said, we want you to come at 11. I said, well, I have a meeting at that time, but I'm happy to move it. This is very important. They said, no. 11 p.m. It's at the Hilton Albany. And 11 p.m., okay, but we did a training at 1 in the morning a few years ago. Elizabeth and I did at one of your conferences. So what a privilege and a joy to be there with you and all your energy. So it's already a nerve-wracking time. You're already at home, and to have these additional regulations and what they mean is going to be nerve upon nerve, stacked upon nerve. So we have people who are looking at this. We have people who are thinking about this. And it's not going to be as simple and as fast a change as I think you might expect. So let us turn it back over to you. Let's have some questions, a discussion. This is our favorite part, is when we get to listen and not so much talk.
Okay, thank you guys so much. It's much appreciated. If you have any questions, you could just drop it in the chat and I could just read the questions out loud. But I do have a question as we're waiting for questions. First of all, once again, thank you so much. And I was at a conference, the last semester conference, where I was able to make a few bags. Even some of your kids were there. It was a great way to see people come together for a great cause. So I'm sure a lot of students are wondering, how can I get SUNY's Got Your Back on my campus? So what is the advice, or what are the necessary steps to, implement that on our SUNY campuses?
Elizabeth, you're muted.
Yeah, realize that. That's like the 5th time today I've done that, second time this conference. If folks want to bring SUNY's Got Your Back to your campus once things are operational again, feel free to just send me an email, elizabeth.brady@suny.edu, or you can go onto our website, suny.edu/gotyourback, and submit a campus programming request through our campus programming request form. Or the staff is active on our Instagram account, so send them a DM. But however you want to get in touch with us is completely okay. And in the meantime, if you would like to bring additional conversations to your campus virtually, all of those things still stand. Feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to collaborate with you and do whatever we can to support your efforts and your leadership on your campuses, virtually or in person.
And one other thing I just want to mention on top of what Elizabeth said is, even though we've had to pause our programs, we are actually still distributing bags. So we have had just about as many bags ordered as we have made, and we're still seeing bags ordered. Sexual and interpersonal violence has not disappeared with social distancing. In fact, some would argue, I think compellingly, that although some aspects of violence may look different, certain aspects of violence will be on the increase and are on the increase. And so these agencies are still open. They are still serving victims and survivors of violence. And so we are actually still mailing out bags all the time. We mail out thousands and thousands of them every month, and we will continue to do so. So even though we're not having programs where we're assembling bags, we are absolutely still serving the rape crisis programs, domestic violence shelters, hospitals, and law enforcement agencies that serve victims.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I see that was Jenny's question, but Michelle, if you're on the call, you could ask your question.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, it's like kind of loud, but my question is, do you guys offer any internship programs that students can like apply for and learn more about your organization and professional stuff?
So yes, we have each summer and sometimes during the semester, we have standard law internships where we have law students come in and intern. And that has always been a great success. In more recent years, we have brought on undergraduate student interns working around our Spectrum conference, which some of you might have been at Spectrum or heard of. Unfortunately, as you might imagine, we're unable to have it this year because of COVID-19, although we had some incredible speakers and we do plan to be back in the summer of 2021. So we love having interns on. We are a university. It is part of our educational mission. I don't know that in our distance environment that we're going to be able to do undergraduate interns this summer. It's just it's much harder to supervise and the like, but in general, yeah, you know, keep your eye open, and that is something we're very interested in. And work with the Student Assembly is certainly a big plus one because we know that you know about SUNY, we know that you understand the projects and policies, and you know, we can start the orientation at 201 rather than 101. So we have enjoyed working with many interns, many who have essay experience for sure.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely let people know to look out.
Great.
Thank you. Next, we have Coriana. If you could also say what SUNY campus you're on, just so we are all aware, that'll be great.
Hi. Thank you, everybody. I am a social work student at Stony Brook University on Long Island. And my question is that many people are predicting that once the pandemic starts to settle and people are able to leave their houses, that we're going to see a drastic influx in people seeking services related to domestic violence, because we're seeing heightened rates of domestic violence right now.
Reach campaign, we would be so happy to do that.
Thank you. Next, we have Esther. I see the first question was answered, but you have a second question if you're still on the call. Okay, I'll just read the question then. Her question was, have SUNY's Got Your Bag been able to collaborate with individual campus Title IX coordinators?
Yeah, absolutely. The program actually started with our Title IX coordinators back in 2016. And we work very closely with our Title IX coordinators as well as our student affairs professionals, the folks who work with all of you on all of, on what we call the life cycle of violence. So that's everything from upstream prevention to response, Title IX, student affairs, and the like. We coordinate with them on a number of different programs. On the prevention side, we've coordinated with them on healthy relationships and dating violence prevention programs. Some of you might have participated in a Yards for Yardly, either this year or in past years, which we work with the One Love Foundation. It raises awareness of domestic violence, and the other side, healthy relationships and the like. We partner with them on SUNY's Got Your Back. We have done SUNY's Got Your Back at every single SUNY campus, as well as some big partner organizations. We've been at New York Islanders games, we've been at PGA Tour events, we've been at the Aurora games and the like, and all of that comes in partnership. We are very lucky to have such a strong relationship with our Title IX coordinators, and they do that. We do that so that they can better and more efficiently serve all of you. The entire goal is to reduce, inefficiencies, create efficiencies so that we can best and most rapidly and in most thoughtful and cutting edge way respond to any allegation of sexual and interpersonal violence, sexual harassment in a way that is a best practice. And so we do that by working together a lot, just like you all get together for training, we get together with them. So we have very close relationships with our Title IX coordinators and plan to continue to do so, and especially as things might change on the federal level.
Thank you. Next, we have Haley. I'm not sure if she's still on the call, but her question is, has there been any consideration to do anything virtual in place of the Spectrum Conference?
Yeah, so I'm glad that that question was asked. There definitely has been. We've been working, or we are communicating currently with our 4 president co-chairs, or 3, because President Swanger did retire, so congratulations to him. But this issue is not going to go away just because there's currently a pandemic. I think, again, like what we were talking about a few minutes ago, it may get worse in some ways. And our most marginalized populations, we can't forget to continue the conversation there. And I think over the past few years, we've really brought to the forefront of the conversation in sexual and interpersonal violence prevention conversations the fact that this issue disproportionately impacts members of the LGBTQIA+ community. So yeah, our goal is to figure out a way to continue delivering content on this topic and in this area, and continue to engage in conversations with folks from across the SUNY system and across institutions all over the country, because like we said, the work has to continue.
That's right. That's right. I see that's all the questions in the chat. Once again, if you just joined and you have any questions, please feel free to just put in the chat. But a question I would ask is, so what advice would you give to students who want to go into sexual and domestic violence prevention?
Get involved now. Reach out to start. If folks want to start sort of doing the work right now as they're a student, I'm happy to provide resources or guidance or do whatever I can. I know Joe is the same way. We are always excited to connect with our students, and anyone who wants to pursue this professionally, also feel free to reach out. Happy to have a conversation with anyone about sort of how I ended up here, and I'm sure Joe would be happy to do the same.
Yeah, I think there's no replacement for actual experience. There are a lot of different ways to do good work in the area of preventing and responding to sexual and interpersonal violence. They're in New York, they're across the country, they're on college campuses, they're in K through 12, they're in community-based organizations. There are a lot of ways for folks to contribute and to do a good job. And most of the people who are hiring for those want to see, well, what do you know already, and what do I still have to train you? By being able to show, not tell, by being able to show, well, I got involved with the Title IX office. I got involved with my health educator. I got involved with the prevention programming. I organized this program on my campus. I organized a program at the Student Assembly conference. I spoke on the issue at the Student Assembly conference. I interned with SUNY. I interned with the New York State Coalition Against Sexual Assault. I interned with the New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Is by far the best way, even more so than saying, well, here are my grades and here are the classes that I took. We don't kid ourselves that as much as we think we look young, students your age look at us and they say, these are not my peers, right? And most people learn from their peers, right? So we don't kid ourselves. Elizabeth and I are a bit older than undergrad, and we try as hard as we can to inspire and educate folks on campus because people learn from peers, right? Police officers want to learn from police officers, doctors want to learn from doctors, students want to learn from students, lawyers want to learn from lawyers. Everybody wants to learn from their peers. So you can do so much by going out there and taking some of the content we're creating. We're not selling it to you, we're giving it to you, right? Take it, make it your own, retweet it, put it up on Instagram, put it on TikTok, whatever the hell that is, and put it up there and get that information out, because that's where we're going to see real change. And that's when you're going to put something out there, better than us putting it out there. You're going to put something out there, and someone's going to come up to you and say, I didn't know you were doing this work. Here's something that's going on with my cousin. Here's something that's going on with my friend. Here's something that's going on with me. And you'll be able to drive that person to resources that can really help them, that can help them with mental health, help them with medical, help them with counseling, help them if they want to go through the law enforcement process, if they want to go through the student conduct process and the Title IX process. These all exist. But frankly, and being honest, the leadership will best come from all of you. You're their peers. You're the ones that they trust. They see Elizabeth and me standing up there in suits at the Student Assembly conference and say, okay, well, these old folks came in to tell us some good information, okay? But that's fine. But when you go back to the campus, so if there's one thing that you can sort of take out of this, like, how do you get, what's the path to becoming a professional? It's being a great student leader in this area. It's being a student leader who makes the real change, because by the way, you will never for the rest of your career have an opportunity to make as much change on the college campus as you do right now. You could go into doing professional work. You could be Elizabeth's right hand. You could be the next person who comes onto our staff. You'll never.
I'm actually from MCC, Monroe Community College. And I had seen something about new hand signs for people that are going through domestic abuse to raise awareness. Is that something that we are currently thinking of even during these times that we're on computers? Because
So, oops, sorry. So I saw that too, and I think that a lot of these sort of like social media buzzword kind of posts where folks are, they're all really, really well intentioned. I think I get nervous about some of the broad implications of for this issue as a universal will adopt this. But the concept is actually an adaptation from safety planning, which has its roots in the battered women's movement during the second wave feminist movement, where issues of domestic violence at that point that referred to as the battered women's movement, even though we know it impacts folks from all genders. Safety planning came into play as a way to implement risk reductive strategies for folks who may be experiencing sexual or intimate partner domestic violence. So, and that's one of it was using code words and establishing those ahead of time with trusted folks within your life. This way, if you were in an unsafe situation, you could safely use the code word to share it with folks. So sort of going off of the hand signal idea, I think it sort of in smaller circles or in smaller groups, having an agreed upon hand signal or code word for a group of friends or within the context of a classroom or a club or an organization, or using the connections that you share in your life to let folks know that you're a safe space and you would be willing to assist if need be, and establishing those ahead of time is always a good idea, especially during a time of social distancing. But as far as there being like an overarching hand signal, not that I'm aware of, but definitely consider implementing that, or even just taking a look at Love is Respect as an interactive safety planning guide. Whether or not you're in, regardless of your relationship status, it's always an okay idea to kind of lay out some ways to, or take a look at the process and see if there's anything that you could do to implement risk reductive strategies within your life.
And Demi, can we show the saver real quick so folks know that resource and they can share that?
You want to send the link or?
Oh, can I, am I able to share my screen?
I think they disabled that because of the hack.
No question.
I can have you share the screen 1 second.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Taryn.
Of course, you should be able to now, Joe. Let me know if you can't.
Okay, give me 1 second. Go back in, share. I'm going to share the Saver resources. So
Perfect.
perfect.
You can say.
Great. So I just want to show folks, this is the Saver resource. This is the only one of these in the country. We launched it in 2015. It's still the only one. This has every single campus, off-campus resource available in the state of New York, and we keep it up to date. So I'm just going to drop down and pick a random SUNY campus. We'll start with Morrisville. You can drop down. All of our SUNY campuses are on here. What's the first thing you see? The campus resource page. Their own sexual harassment policies, anonymous reporting, counseling, health and wellness, university police or campus security, the Title IX coordinator, disability services, and human resources. When you're looking at this on your phone, you know, the phone, boom, you hit it, brings you right to the phone, right to the email, right to the website, and the like. I'll come back to visa and immigration in a minute, but you might be an on-campus student. You say, I don't want to report on campus. I want to report off campus. That's fine. We have every single off-campus resource, every rape crisis program, every domestic violence shelter, every police department, every hospital with an emergency room, all the legal resources, all the Office for New American Opportunity Centers, well over 1,000 resources we have, and they're all here just geocoded. And you could just click this, brings you right to Google Maps. If you're on your phone, you know, brings you right to be able to see it. Every single one of them is coded if it's law enforcement, if it is offers the forensic exam, if it's confidential, if it's 24/7, if it's a rape crisis program, if it's LGBTQI serving, and all of the resources are there. Tammy, why don't you give me a zip code anywhere in New York State?
11225.
So 11225, this is why Saver is for all New Yorkers, because you're not limited to being on a campus to search by zip code. So here we've got Downstate Medical Center, SUNY University Hospital, CAMBA, we've got Kingsbrook Jewish, Good Shepherd. And so all of these resources, and if they offer the forensic exam, you can find them and they are readily available. And so if you have a friend who is experiencing any type of violence and they say, I don't even know where to start, well, here's a confidential, anonymous site. Confidential is not the right word. It's an anonymous site. We don't know who's on it. We don't know what they're doing. And frankly, we don't care. We just want it to be used. We also have a map. So somebody could just go on, click on the map, and you'll see all the resources will pop up. And literally over 1,000 resources in the state of New York. And then we also have our definition. So every college in New York State has the same definition of affirmative consent, the same definition of amnesty. Demi, name a language.
Spanish.
No problem. We're going to drop down to Spanish. This is affirmative consent in Spanish. Name another language.
French. So also help me out in the chat.
This is amnesty in French. Give me a rarer language.
Ooh. I'm about to say my language, but I doubt it's over there.
What is it?
It's Yoruba. It's I doubt it's here. Oh.
So we
Wow.
worked with
Wow.
We worked with a contractor and we said, what are the top 120 languages that you get translation requests for from the state of New York? And we worked with our admissions and enrollment people to say, what nations are folks coming from to the State University of New York? And we created a big table. And this is the Student Bill of Rights in Yoruba. And we also worked with a professor from Binghamton University who translated all of these into American Sign Language as well. So this is available on the web. And the reason is that although students speak English for sure, you know, they're coming here, they're unable to understand English for sure. At 3 in the morning, after an incident occurs, aren't you just a little bit more comfortable at obtaining access to these resources in your native language? So that's why we translated it. We got a federal grant to do so. I want to drop down to visa and immigration and show that to you. We know that our immigrant and international students face additional challenges, but they also have additional rights. So we created, with some of the best immigration attorneys in the country, a 2-page resource for our immigrant and international victims and survivors of violence. How do I report on campus? Can I press criminal charges? Who do I talk to? Are there specific visa statuses? We talk about U and T. Is there an office on campus that can be additional information? What are my visa options? What is an immigration lawyer? What do they do? Where can I find one? And you notice I happened to scroll down to ESF. Here's the ESF Chief of Police. Here's the ESF, ESF, ESF. Let's go back to Yoruba. And it takes about 4.5 seconds. And this is the exact same information, again, still tied to ESF, but translated. So it's more accessible at 3 in the morning. Just grab it, get that information. All of our campuses in all 120 languages. It's available right now. Here's Shona. Again, about 4.5 seconds to load, and those resources are available. This isn't like something that SUNY's doing because every college is doing it. SUNY is the first university to do this, to translate into 120 languages. Now, we're not the last, because we are giving away access to this to every college in the country. They can download it, they can customize it, and they can offer this exact same service to their students. But SUNY was the first. It was developed here at the State University of New York. And then we do have an exit button. If somebody clicks the exit button, it brings them to Google. And if they click back, it brings them, that was the page I was on before, the Zoom. So one of the things that SUNY developed the technology to do was also to delete the transaction. So I went from, this was the Zoom page to open up this meeting. I typed in response.suny.edu. That's the saver, or you could search SUNY Saver. And that's it. That's the saver. I will stop sharing, give it back to Taryn now. I hope you share that with friends, family. Any New Yorker can use the saver. It is there to be used. We have tens of thousands of people who access it every year, and we want it to be available because we know that many people experience different things, and some of them don't have access to go in to talk to a Title IX coordinator to get that information. This gives them the entry point to be able to access confidential and private resources on and off campus, from the North Country to the Western New York, Southern Tier, Central New York, Albany, downstate, Long Island, New York City, everywhere. Get the access, get the information. It's anonymous and it's accurate.
This is a very impressive website, and seeing my language definitely made me happy. I was like, there's no way, people don't know about it, but seeing that shows that you guys are trying to be inclusive, and I love that. Even Esther in the group chat said it is an amazing resource, and it really is. And I would just reiterate what you said, that please make sure you're sharing this with people that you know. A question asked was, how often are these resources updated?
So pretty much continuously. We do 2 different systems for updating. One, we ask campuses and agencies to reach out to us when they make a change. And second, during the summer, we will have staff and interns go line by line and make sure it's updated. So we make a real effort to keep it updated, and we use those 2 systems.
That's great. I think that's all the questions we have in the chat. We have about 10 minutes left. If you guys want to add anything else.
Elizabeth?
Thank you all so much for having us. It's always really energizing and just excellent to be able to connect with you all. I see a note from Haley saying thank you for all the work that you do, when in reality we should really be thanking each of you for continuing to inspire and lead your peers, and continuing to engage folks in conversations that aren't always easy, and you know, really work to make important long-term improvements in your everyday lives. So thank you so much for having us. Thank you for inviting us, and thank you to each of you for what you're doing to improve the lives of hundreds of thousands of SUNY students. Thanks.
This is, I think it's fair to say, the hardest time that any of us have gone through. This is hard for our students. It's hard for our colleagues at the university and on our campuses. It's hard for faculty and staff. It's hard for the people and the families who have lost their lives. It is hard for the folks who are still on duty and on the front lines every day. This is a very hard time, but it is a time when leaders can step up, when leaders can show true leadership. And this is an issue that hasn't gone away because of COVID-19. In some ways it's different, in some ways it's the same, and in some ways it's quite a bit worse. And you are the next generation of leaders for the university, for our state, for our nation. And I understand if you all say, but I have so much else on my plate. There's no question that you all have your classes, family, work, no question about it. And no one would say a thing if you said, this is not the time where I can stand up. This is not the time where I can create a new project. This is not the time where I can do this. But if this is the time that you can spare that bandwidth, those resources, that ability to help, this is the time when you can show incredible leadership and stand up for friends and colleagues and family members who you don't even know are going through this right now, because you don't put it on your resume. You don't wear it on your shirt. People mostly work through these issues in silence. So this is a time, there is so much on everyone's plate. To the extent that this is a time that you have that bandwidth, that you can show that leadership, that you can develop those programs, that you can take some of the stuff that we're creating and do the real work of sharing it with your fellow students, the real work of putting it out on social media, of getting people to understand that there are people who care about sexual and interpersonal violence and harassment. There are people who are trained both in the community and on our campuses to respond in a trauma-informed, high-quality, efficient, best practices way. You don't even know whose life you're saving. You don't even know which of your friends you are helping. You don't even know which of your family members you are helping. But in this time where it is so difficult for so many, the leadership that you show, the changes that you make will be remembered and will go well beyond 2020 and well beyond the circle of folks who are on this Instagram and Facebook and Zoom. You can make a difference that those ripples will go out across our state. I'm so proud of the work that you're already doing and your leadership and each of your student leaders. I'm so grateful that you would welcome us for your first ever digital town hall. May it be the last time we have to do this all digitally, and may we be back at the Albany Hilton for your 10 p.m. Sessions again. But what a privilege to be with you. And what an opportunity you have to do real work and make real change.
You're right. I do agree. I hope this is the last time, but I must say this was a great way to start this week off. You both are very inspiring, and this is something I'm passionate about. So hearing you both speak was great, and I'm sure everyone else on this call could say the same as well. You guys are really making a change in this community, and we need more people like you. So thank you for all the work you've done. As we are just wrapping up, I would like to thank everyone else who was on this call. Thank you for joining us and asking your questions. It is much appreciated. Remember that SUNY SA has many more events this week. This is not the only event. We also have more events tonight. So right after this call, there will be a presentation on the benefits for veteran students, as well as a discussion on mental health counseling services. Once again, thank you all so much for joining this call. Thank you, Elizabeth and Joe, for your amazing work. We appreciate you, and I'm wishing you all a safe and amazing week.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay healthy, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the comments in the chat. Have a great one.